Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Changing Minds podcast. This is me, Owen Fitzpatrick, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why things go wrong and how to make them go right. Now, first of all, I'm sure you're looking at me and you're thinking to yourself, how can you, Owen, how can you tell me why things go wrong in my life? You don't know me. You don't know my life, right? Yeah, okay, maybe, Owen, you're extremely handsome. Thank you. And maybe you're extremely smart. Thank you again. And maybe you've got like loads of answers and you're like really, really good at communicating. Thank you again. But you can't tell me about my own specific life. And indeed, I cannot. So I'm not here to tell you why your specific life goes the way it does, but I want to offer you a number of different things that I believe are the causes or influences that lead your life to go the way that it does, that lead my life to go the way that it does, that lead most people's lives to go in the direction that they do. What I call the 6 things that tend to make things go wrong in your life. I'm also not here to tell you that the only reason why you don't have what you want, or the main reason for your life being not the way you would ideally like it to be, is as a result of you, solely you. You have not manifested the right life. You have not created the right life. You have manifested all the problems and the pain and the trauma that you had in your life. I'm not here to tell you that either, because I don't believe that to be true. And I think sometimes we can fall into this trap while we crave agency and influence and control. I myself encourage it, is that we can start to beat ourselves up because, well, my life isn't the way I want it to be. And I've been learning that I have everything under my control, so I'm the cause. And I really don't believe that we need to be the victims of the world. And I also don't believe that we need to be the villains of the world. I believe there's a happy medium there. We can be both. No, we can be the heroes of our own journey. I can be your hero, baby. All right. I promise I'll never do that again. I might have done that in the past episode. I don't remember, but I kind of remember making a promise. So hopefully it was not that exact song. Otherwise I would have already broken a promise, but it won't happen again. My point is that in the course of the next few minutes, what I want to do is explore 6 reasons why I believe that things go wrong for us. And let's start with number 1, and that is, will you? And I know I've just spent the last few minutes telling you, well, why I'm not going to talk about why you're to blame for a lot of the problems that you face. But the reality is sometimes you do. You cause them to go wrong. You make mistakes. You allow your emotions to override your judgment, and you snap at whatever it is that the situation is asking for. You make poor calls, you make poor decisions, you find yourself lazy, lacking discipline, you're not motivated enough, you don't build good enough relationships, you find yourself unfocused, you're not performing at the highest level, you allow stress to limit you and hold you back, you don't take the actions that you need to. Stop me when I've lost you. I'm sure I lost you a while back. The reality is the reason I might have lost you is because we don't like to think about it like this. We don't like to think about the fact that we're to blame or we're the cause of a lot of the challenges that we have. Now, why I started off by saying you're not the sole cause is to really explain to you that the sole cause is where the problem lies, not the fact that we're partly the cause. If you absolve yourself from all responsibility, it means that you'll just walk through life as a victim of the circumstances that occur to you. So it's crucial that you do take some responsibility and recognize the ownership that you can have over different aspects of your life, over the decisions that you make, over the actions that you take, over the way in which you deliberately generate the kind of emotions that you need at specific situations. So we need to recognize the ownership or power that we do have. The second thing that causes things to go wrong for you is luck. Now, Annie Duke, wonderful poker professional, you've probably heard me talk before about her on the podcast, certainly did around the decision-making episodes. Well, Annie Duke wrote a great book called Thinking in Bets. And one of the things she did was she compared poker to chess. And she said poker is actually much more effective a description, much more accurate a metaphor to describe life. Because in chess, all the pieces are there. There's a certain amount of ways that this can go, even if that is a ridiculously high number. And it really is all about skill. Whereas with poker, a large part of it is about luck, and specifically your ability to leverage whatever skill that you have and to be able to deal with whatever luck you get. So you can't control what cards you get. You can't control what cards other people get. And you certainly can't control what is turned up in a game of poker. But what you can control is the decisions that you make, the calculations you make, and making the best strategic decisions depending on the circumstances you find yourself in dealing with. So what we need to recognize is that luck is inevitably going to be something that affects our lives. And it can affect our lives in a multitude of ways, but we need to recognize that as opposed to falling into the trap of thinking that it is all about me or it is all caused by other people. Luck plays a part. Now, what can we do about it? Well, we'll talk about that a little later. But generally speaking, we can do very little about luck because we don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to work. We can make ourselves slightly luckier. Some of the psychological experiments that I'll be talking about will show you how to do that a little bit. But really, luck is luck. And we have to be able to be ready for the bad luck, be ready for the good luck, be ready for the bittersweet luck when we get bad luck, but it turns out to be good luck, or good luck, but it turns out to be bad luck. And we have to be able to roll with that. We got to take our time. We're going to say what you say. Sorry, I keep getting caught into singing today. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm going to try to hold back from now on. The third thing, besides you and besides luck that gets in your way, are systems. The systems that we live in, the systems in our society. So a lot of times what we tend to find is that people are either trying to make the point that systems are the reason why there's a systemic problem in society, and that is the reason why I have the problems that I do. And they're not wrong in the sense that I'm sure the systemic, for example, systemic inequality that people experience certainly plays a large part in determining how people are doing in general. But to blame everything on the system is just too easy and quite frankly wrong, because once again, you play a part in determining whether or not things will go wrong to you. And luck will play a part in determining why things go wrong to you. And if we just blame the system, that's problematic. On the other hand, if we think that the system has nothing to do with it, the system is grand, because some people have that point of view as well. They try to argue, there's no such thing as this. No, that's just all of this woke nonsense. Actually, the system is perfect the way it is. It's working the best way we know how. Well, that's just wrong as well. So there is a problem with the system in general. And when I say the system, I could be talking about the financial system, the way finances work, and how some people get ridiculously wealthy by playing a game, pretty much legal gambling, whereas other people are seen as being the worst folk in society because they go to a casino. I could be talking about the political system, whereby we're allowing ourselves to vote in the least worst candidate most of the time, as opposed to someone who actually should be doing what it is that they can do. There's a multitude of different systems we could be talking about. And in every single case, I'm sure we could find reasons why that system is terrible. But hopefully we'll find ways to improve the system. And there are things that we need to do in order to do that. But in the meantime, we need to recognize that the system plays a part, but not the only part in determining why things go wrong. The fourth reason why things go wrong is other people. Now, people are kind of part of the system, right, as well, I suppose. And you're a person as well. But by people, I mean the other folks inside of your life. And this could be anything from the head of the government, which probably has a lot less of an impact on your life than you think they do. But the reality is what we need to be looking at are the people that we surround ourselves with, both offline and online. So who are the people that we're surrounded by? They could be the very reason why things go wrong. You get cheated on by a partner. Someone screws you out of a business deal. Someone fires you or bullies you in work. There's a whole host of different examples whereby people just do negative, nasty, horrible things. Sometimes people are unkind. All you have to do is go on social media for more than a minute and you'll see lots of examples of people with very strong opinions that are convinced that the world is a certain way. And as a result of that, they put across a lot of hate and spit a lot of negative ideas across on their keyboard. There's also people getting bullied, people feeling limited by the people that surround them. So it's almost like they're afraid to succeed. They're afraid to do very well because they know that with that success will come an awful lot of hate. And therefore, sometimes people will stifle themselves because they don't want to risk exposing themselves to that kind of hate. So people are part of the problem as well. So we've got your part of the problem, Luck is part of the problem, systems are part of the problem, and other people are part of the problem. The next is time is part of the problem. Time will often lead to things going wrong. We don't have enough time. And where we put our time also matters. And you could be spending a lot of time on task A and not a lot of time on task B. And as a result, you don't get the results you're looking for. So time is also an issue, and time takes its toll. Over time, we get older. As we get older, with that age comes certain, I suppose, limitations. And so what we have to recognize is that time also causes things to go wrong. Sometimes a particular problem can fester and can get worse and worse and worse the more time that goes on. So for example, a little toothache here might turn into something much bigger over time. Some sort of bad feeling that you have could turn into something quite serious over time. So time is also something that can lead to things going wrong. Then we have finally change. Change is something that causes things to go wrong as well. Unfortunately, and this kind of, you could, I suppose, link it with time, but change is when we find ourselves dealing with constant, overwhelming, turbulent, uncertain, volatile world where everything seems to be changing and there's newness on a regular basis. And while we welcome newness, we find ourselves struggling to cope. And the simple reason why we struggle with change, and we'll talk more about this in another episode, I'm sure, but is because our brains are prediction machines and our brains like to predict what's going to happen next. So we like to know what is about to occur. And whenever something changes, that makes it harder for our brains to make predictions, which in turn uses quite a lot of cognitive energy. And so as a result of that, change can be very stressful. And change keeps changing the rules of the game. Change can affect a lot of the other things. For example, a person that loves you, all of a sudden they change their mind and they no longer love you. That's how people can negatively impact your life because they've changed. The system itself can change in negative ways, which makes things worse. You can change, or you can start feeling lazier, or you can have an injury and therefore not be able to take the actions you need to in order for you to be healthy and fit. There's a whole host of things that can occur with change, but change could certainly cause things in your life to go wrong. So there we have the 6 different reasons why things go wrong in our life. Number 1, you. Number 2, luck. Number 3, systems. Number 4, people. Number 5, time. And number 6, change. The show notes, by the way, are available on the website. If you go to owenfitzpatrick.com and go to the podcast, we'll have show notes available there. But those are the 6 things that cause things to go wrong in our life. Now, the next question then becomes, well, what is it that we need to do in order for us to be able to handle them? So how do we deal with life when those kind of things that go wrong? And what I want to do is offer you a number of suggestions which are based upon these particular causes. So I want to be able to share with you some ways that you can handle whatever challenges you find yourself facing, so you're in a much better position to be able to deal with these 6 elements that we've just discussed. The first one is we need to control what we control, which is start to change our mindset. Now, your mindset are sort of beliefs that you have about specific things in your world. So, for example, we have a mindset about our intelligence. This is often known as the fixed versus growth mindset. And this is that some people have a mindset that we have a fixed level of intelligence or a fixed ability in some area, and other people believe they can grow and improve that area, which means they have a growth mindset. There's also a stress is good mindset or stress is bad mindset. This is the mindset you have about stress, whether stress is something that's bad for you or stress is something that's good for you, which can hopefully help you to change the way in which you experience stress. There's mindsets to do with opportunity versus problems. So some people have a mindset where they focus on the problem. Other people have a mindset where they start to see the problem as an opportunity. But a mindset is really the way in which you think about the world based upon how this belief that you have orientates you towards thinking about it. So in other words, when you change your mindset, you change the way you experience that particular idea or concept in your mind. And so the one thing that we can do is we can change our mindset. So whenever something goes wrong, we can see that as an opportunity to learn, to get better, to grow, to improve. when you change your mindset about why things go wrong, which hopefully this particular episode will help you to do, it allows you to be able to change the story that you tell yourself about what's going on in your life. And as a result of telling yourself a new story, that will then in turn help you to be able to tell yourself more empowering stories that help you to change your mind. And really, that's what this is all about. So changing your mindset means beginning to see whatever goes on for you, whatever is happening to you, whatever difficulty you find yourself dealing with in a new way, by being able to start to look at it differently, fundamentally, telling yourself different stories about what it means. And as a result of that, starting to make new, better, and more useful generalizations about your expectations. So changing your mindset is really about changing the way you think about the world. And when you start to work on that, which a lot of the different episodes that we've done over the course of the career of this podcast, as well as my newsletters, available on owenfitzpatrick.com/newsletter. That is actually called Inner Propaganda. You can sign up for free and you get every week an article that I write specifically designed to help you to change your mind about something, right? So I really hope that you sign up for free. Did I tell you that? Pretty sure I told you that. And you'll get an article from me for free. And it's a really great article if I do say so myself. Yes, I do. Anyway, these are all the different ways in which we need to focus on changing our mindset and the critical components of the way in which we think. The next thing that we need to do besides changing our mindset is you need to take responsibility for your actions. That means being aware of what actions you're taking and taking responsibility. Now, notice that I use the word responsibility. I don't use the word blame. So I'm not saying that you should go, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that. I'm such a loser. I'm so bad. I destroyed everything. I ruined everything. No, I mean, you can do that if you want, but it won't help you. What will help you is deciding what are the actions that you need to take differently in the future. So take responsibility for your future actions. What are the actions that you need to take moving forward that will give you what it is that you're looking to get? What is it that you ultimately speaking want to achieve? When you change the way in which you evaluate the actions you take and you start to take responsibility for those actions in the future, you can start to deliberately decide to take the actions you need to get the kind of results that you want. Dr. Richard Bandler, in a great book that he wrote with Dr. Glenda Bradstock and myself called Thinking on Purpose, when we wrote that book, we based it upon what Dr. Bandler calls the importance of being able to think on purpose. That means instead of falling into automatic ways of thinking, we learn to be able to do it deliberately. Now, someone else that popularized that notion is a psychological professor known as Ellen Langer, who was famous for an experiment she did around the concept of but, the word because, in the 1970s. And she also did some great work with Alia Crum on mindset. But Professor Langer talks about this concept of mindfulness, and mindfulness not in the sense of the Jon Kabat-Zinn mindfulness, which has been very much associated with meditation. In Ellen Langer's version of mindfulness, which came about around the same time in the 1970s, what she emphasized was the importance of seeing things that were new, noticing new things, being able to stop the automated ways of thinking that we fall into, and instead being able to take charge over what we're doing at this moment in time. Well, what we need to do is recognize that once we can take responsibility for what mindsets we have, we can take responsibility for our actions, we're doing all we can to make sure that we are not the problem. The next thing that we can do in order to be able to deal with these challenges is to become luckier. Now, earlier I said that there's very little that you can do, but there is still something that you can do. And that is based upon a number of research studies that were, I suppose, popularized by Professor Richard Wiseman when he talked about, well, how do you help people to become luckier? What they did was they did fascinating experiments around luck, whereby they would ask a person whether or not that person believed that they were lucky. And if the person said yes, they would do an experiment. The person said no, they would do an experiment. But they found that whenever a person believed that they were lucky, they were more likely to get good luck during the experiment. For example, luckier people are more likely to find coins and more likely to find money on the ground. The explanation for this is that when you believe that you're lucky, you're much more likely to notice opportunity when it is there. And In reality, so often, because we believe that we're not lucky or we expect bad luck, it means we miss out on all of the possible opportunities that we could have seen. So it's critical that we learn to focus on how we can start to see ourselves as luckier, and we can look for the positive luck and a good luck that might be out there for ourselves. The third thing that we need to do is to learn the rules of the system. And the reason why we want to learn the rules of the system is because we might want to start to follow them so that we can, from the inside, fix them, or that we can break them. But either way, whether or not we decide we're going to fix the rules of the system or whether we're going to break the rules of the system, we need to understand the system's rules first and foremost. So that means learning and understanding and doing your due diligence to understand how the system works. If you are truly committed to making a significant difference to society, what's really important is that you look at the system and you look at how it works. You look at why it works that way. You look at how people have different perspectives on the system itself and what truly matters. And what you want to do is be able to give yourself the opportunity to look at it from a multitude of perspectives. So you get a coherent perspective over exactly what's going on. Then you could choose to be able to figure out what are your beliefs, what are your thoughts, and what is the smartest and best thing to do. So often we complain about the system, and then we just read the propaganda that helps us feel better about ourselves because they're arguing about the same things as ourselves. But if you don't take time to understand the system and why it works the way it does, you won't really have the nuanced perspective needed to be able to make the best kinds of decisions to be able to really fix it or to break it. Then it's about getting the right people. The next step towards being able to make life go right for you is to get the right people in your life. Now, in business, sometimes they say get the right people in the right seats. Well, in life, the first part of that is to look around and to ensure that we're spending the right amount of time with the right people. Now, this doesn't mean that you fire people in your family or your best friend because they aren't always empowering for you. It means just that you take care of who you're spending time with, how much time you're spending with them, and what you're doing when you're spending that time with them. So if you spend time with people and you love them and you care about them, but you're spending that time always getting angry and you feel worse after you've spent time with them, that's not good. So part of it is getting the right people. And it's also about spending quality time with those people. And so it's important for you to do an inventory of who you're spending your time with. And this is not just offline, it's also online. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Whose posts are you reading? What kind of media coverage are you listening to? The community you're surrounding yourself with will play a large part in determining whether or not things go wrong, not to mention influencing your mind significantly. So make sure you do an inventory of who is around you so you can make better decisions moving forward. Next, you want to learn to be more persuasive so that with the people that you do have around you, you are more able to influence the way in which they think. Learning the skills of persuasion and influence is one of the greatest things that you can do to enable you to be much more empowered and much more effective at being able to deal with the people in your life more effectively and build better relationships as a result. The better you are at influencing and persuading, the more likely you are to ensure that you minimize the likelihood of people being the problem because you influence them effectively. Then we also have to look at being strategic. Being strategic means figuring out what we need to do today, how we need to use our time today to make it so that in time, the world works out in the way that we want it to. Because time sometimes can be a friend and sometimes can be, inverted commas, our enemy. What we need to recognize is that by being strategic, we're thinking not just about what we need to do today, but we're thinking long-term, how we're going to deal with things and how we're going to ensure that we take the right steps that lead us to where we need to get to. When we start to do it in this way and create the kind of results that we want long-term, when we have the big picture like this, that will allow us to be able to deal with whatever time throws at us. Not to mention being strategic can also help us to deal with change. But there's one other element that we can use to be able to deal with change, and that is being prepared to embrace it. Embracing change means recognizing change is inevitable and being comfortable with the fact that change is going to occur no matter what. A little later this month, I'm going to be doing a very special session on how change works. And I'm going to be sharing with you some of the most important ways, not only that you can create change, but most importantly, that you can deal with change. Because if you can deal with change more successfully, well, that's going to be if you'll excuse the pun, a game changer. You see what I did there? I used the word change in the, yeah. Oh. Anyhow, why do things go wrong? Well, to me, as I've explained, I believe there's 6 main reasons why things go wrong. And as a result of that, there's a number of things we need to do. We need to change our mindsets and work on the ways in which we think. We need to take responsibility for the actions we take and the thoughts that we think. We need to become luckier by looking for the opportunities that luck might present us with. We need to learn the rules of the system and learn the rules of the game so we can either fix it from the inside or we can break the rules. We need to get the right people, spend the right time with the right people, thinking about and talking and communicating about the right things. We need to improve how persuasive and influential we are. We need to be strategic in how we prepare ourselves to deal with the things of the future and to recognize the challenges that might occur. And we need to embrace change so that we recognize that change is inevitable. And once we get comfortable with it, once we enjoy it, we will find ourselves in a much more advantageous position. I hope you found this useful. If you have, please rate and review the episode. Please share on my Instagram or my Facebook or my LinkedIn if you enjoyed this particular episode. Tell all of your friends and their families and their friends and their pets about the podcast and ask them to listen in. And if you're looking to read from me free every week, really cool articles, check out owenfitzpatrick.com/newsletter, because that is your opportunity to get a email every single week from me called Inner Propaganda. It's very, very cool. Anyway, for now, be well, take care, believe better, and may the force, as always, continue to be with you. Bye for now.